If you haven't heard, recently there is an anime adaptation of a manga that has been highly anticipated for a while next year. That being of Blue Box, a teen romance centering around the relationship between two people in completely different sports in high school. Admittedly, as someone who has followed this manga before the anime announcement even happened, I was extremely happy to hear about this, and even happier in fact about the voice casting that they showed. The voice of the main girl, Chinatsu, is actually the voice of Ganyu from Genshin Impact, as well as Kanao from Demon Slayer, and Reze from Chainsaw Man, the mysterious girl at the end of the season, you know. And funnily enough, the main character Taiki is voiced by the same person who voices Ayano Koji from Classroom of the Elite. If you know, you know. With that out of the way, I figured it would be a perfect time to make a video about it for the anime drops, to share my appreciation for the manga, as well as one big criticism I have of it. So yeah, with that being said, here's the rest of the video. To start off, may I present to you a concept of storytelling. That concept being realism. To most, it is simply how real something can be in a story, from the emotions conveyed by the characters to the scenario being played out. The idea of realism is rooted in the very aspect of literature. It serves as a tool to help readers relate to others and grasp them into the story that is being told. Now, normally, when something is as real as it can get, normally ends up being really good. For example, let's take a look at Vinland Saga, a story about violence and revenge that slowly turns into characters moving past their own grudges and slowly becoming better people. It's an amazing story that, while packed with moments of action, still show us how people can develop and change for the better. That's realism. The ability to convey or show something or a concept that can happen in real life and the reader themselves can also simultaneously agree is pretty realistic, if you would say. Now, with a short understanding of what the main concept is, let's move on to Blue Box. At first glance, the plot seems fairly ordinary and nothing much, but then you realize that is what makes the story that much more appealing. It's a down-to-earth story about something you could see someone or even yourself go through. And I think it's because of that reason that it resonated with me and many others. The plot, down to its very core, is simply about two high schoolers who start out as friends, supporting each other through their various issues, and then inevitably fall in love with each other, add a third love interest, some really well-developed supporting characters who help develop and push the plot forward, then you have Blue Box. It also does serve as a reminder to anyone looking to make a story, but you do not need some insanely creative, never-before-done plot or narrative to make a good story. The only thing you need is a good understanding of what you want to show and tell the reader. If at first it doesn't work out or does not have the impact you wished, then simply learn from it and continue improving the story as it goes along instead of having to redo the whole thing. I think a great example for this would be one of the best slice-of-life teen rom-coms I can think of, that being Nisekoi. This manga is great, and I think it deserves a whole video by itself, as there's so much I want to say about it, but I'm only gonna say why it is a relevant comparison. Nisekoi is amazing in the sense that it captures every aspect of a generic high school romance. Multiple love interests with a looming mystery over who the main love interest is from the beginning. All the girls are given equal, defining character moments, but allow them to shine and actually make you want to root for them. Never has there been a moment where you could say a certain character or girl was underdeveloped. And the MC, who is actually a likable character. Because honestly, let's face it, making a relatable MC is easier said than done, especially in a romance setting, but Nisekoi does that and so much more. But back to Blue Box. It has a good but not overly complicated plot like Nisekoi, characters that are relatable and have realistic emotions and reactions, and an overall great understanding of what the story wants to be and how it wants to tell the story of the main characters. But with as much praise as I give it and compare it to something like Nisekoi, there is one major issue with all of these. So this part was supposed to be me explaining why Blue Box's biggest flaw was its realism, but then it turned into a super long rant about, morals and stuff. So I'm just simply gonna summarize it here. The main problem I have with Blue Box is that later on it doesn't really feel the same in a way. Don't get me wrong, it's still good, it's still very realistic, but in that same sense rather, it feels so much more slower now. So the big spoiler here, which I'm gonna put it here right now, is that of course he ends up confessing to her, right? Like they get together and they're a thing, but because they're a thing now, there's not really that much more to go through. Well, of course, there's the obvious of, having them figure out where they stand in the relationship and how to help each other out now that they've broken the barrier between just being friends. But at the same time, it's taking really long. And I think a main concept that I would like to add is that sometimes the realism is not that good because oftentimes it can lead to really long, dragged out segments. And it's good, in my opinion, to cut out some parts for the sake of realism or to cut out some of the realism to get the plot going on. But I would like to state that, of course, as I keep saying again and again, these are my opinions and the mangaka can write it however the hell they want. I'm just simply stating how I feel as a reader, and you all should respect how the mangaka wants to do it, whether it's to your liking or not. So yeah, that's the end of my third part. Hello, hi, another update here once again. So while I was working on this video, I accidentally found the one shot of Blue Box. And my god, it's much more different than I thought it would be. So I think the first thing that stands out immediately is that the reason it's called Blue Box is because, well, the gym is shaped like a box. Like the opening starts out like, my summer began in this box. So I guess that's why they call it Blue Box. But another thing I noticed as well is that, some of the characters are much more different. For example, main character Taiki is actually a volleyball player in this one. And it's really interesting because in this one, he seems more determined to get with Chinatsu than he does in the actual manga. And actually, by the end of this one shot, they actually do get together, which I found really wholesome. So, really this is just a shorter, more compressed version in general of the whole manga itself, which I found really cool to think that Blue Box came from this simple one-shot and the mangaka was able to extend it this long. So yeah, that's all. Again, check out the anime. That'll be all from me. Thank you.